in pediatric chiropractic and transcranial direct current stimulation, and now I am a metabolic balance coach. I was brought to metabolic balance after my last head injury. I was kind of struggling and looking for support, and this program was suggested to me. I found such success with it that I decided to become a coach. And helping people build their health has been a passion of mine since I was 16 years old. And I am so excited to help you learn more about metabolic balance and how you can benefit from it. So your health matters, and our webinar today is going to focus on just that, helping you to be healthy long term. Many of us are asking, how do I stay healthy? How can I improve my well-being long term? How do I take control of my health? You're wanting clear answers. You want an understanding of your body's needs, and you want to know exactly what to do to sustain it. So let's talk about what metabolic balance is. Metabolic balance was developed by three great minds: an internal doctor and doctor of nutrition, Dr. Wolf, his wife, Bridget, she's a naturopathic kinesiology practitioner, and her sister, Sylvia Burkle, who has her master's in nutrition with an emphasis on adjusting food intake to counteract ailments. It was masterminded in 2001, and it is the only program that saw the necessity to focus on the individual, utilizing each person's blood values and case history to counteract metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome is a cluster of conditions that occur together, and they increase your risk in heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. And still today, there's no program that comes close to the success inherent in Metabolic Balance program. So Metabolic Balance is a pioneer and leading provider of a holistic, scientifically proven nutritional program balancing the body's metabolism. And we're going to go over some of the research study that was done on this nutrition program and share some of our personal stories on how it has balanced our body's metabolism. It also has long-term effects on the nutritional status, health, vitality, and overall well-being of each person. The program helps individuals. And that's the really great thing I love about this, is that it is an individualized program, and it is also a high quality personalized program. Like, no two programs are alike. It's there to meet your individual metabolic needs. And the guidelines are easy to implement. And we're going to show you a way of eating in order to optimize your lifestyle and your well-being. And there are more than 1 million participants that show that this program has sustainable and long-lasting success. Let's go over the foundation of the program. Each person is able to produce the necessary hormones and enzymes essential for a well-balanced metabolism. All right, we're going to stop right there. You're already designed to be able to be in a state of health to produce hormones and enzymes to have a well-balanced metabolism. It fits right along with my philosophy as a chiropractor, which healing comes from above, down, inside out. You just got to get out of the way. The body knows what it needs to do. But here's the kicker. You have to be supplied with the required building blocks, those vitamins, minerals, trace elements, and that happens through appropriate nutrition. So with that well-balanced metabolism, everybody is able to choose the food items that contain these exact building blocks to help us. And that's with our inner signals, that appetite or aversion. And learning those inner signals is a big part of this program, because I can honestly say I didn't have these before this. I didn't realize, excuse me, that I, take a little sip of water here, that I was eating, like, I knew I was an emotional eater, like many of us are, but I didn't realize I was eating for fatigue. And so I learned the difference between being hungry and being tired. I mean, I went through this program when I was 44. I'll be 46 here in March. And it was just amazing to realize that and how it's changed. So let's talk about how we may have lost these signals and how our metabolism is affected by the loss. And we have to go back about 11,000 years to our hunter-gatherer ancestors. They didn't have the luxury of food available to them 24/7 or the nutritional choices that we have today. For them, it was feast or famine. And our very presence here today is due to the fact that they could, as humans, go for long periods of time without food. And our metabolism today is still programmed to be like active wanderers who depended on that time of year and the luck of the catch and having a lot of food at some times and at other times very little to eat. And the only types of food that they did have available to them were high quality, nutrient dense, all natural foods. They were high quality proteins, and about 75% of it was an animal protein. And it was only complex carbohydrates and good fats that were all high in omega-3 fatty acids. So our systems that regulate our metabolism haven't really changed since the Stone Age. And so our bodies need that time of fasting. But yet we also have that function in us that still survives that starvation mode. And what happened to help our ancestors survive is it slowed down the number of calories that your body burned, like your basic metabolic rate. And that's great when you don't know where your next meal is coming from, but not so great when you have all the food sources that we have nowadays. So it can make it a big problem to, balance your metabolism and help with balancing your weight. So let's talk about how what's happening with the obesity epidemic here in the United States. I mean, we're eating the least amount of fat we've ever eaten, and we have the highest obesity epidemic, really. So these are public numbers. They're found from the CDC website. You just go to cdc.gov and you look up obesity prevalence, and you're going to see all the way back to, I believe, 2011. And I've done a couple presentations about this and brought these numbers in over the years. And this is my 19th year in practice. And we have just seen these numbers get darker and darker and darker colors. And so we're living in an environment that promotes obesity. And so we're going to explore that environment next here. So our obesogenic environment, every day we're fighting against chemical pollutants, high intense agriculture, a food industry that has hired scientists to find a bliss point, which is the amount of sugar in a food necessary to stimulate the pleasure centers of your brain. A melt point, which is the amount of fat to put into their food products to make the same pleasure center of your brain light up, and your flavor burst point, which is the amount of salt to do the same thing. These help us become addicted to foods. So you eat an Oreo or you snort cocaine, your brain's going to light up the same on a functional MRI. We also see food advertisements that lead us to believe that processed foods are just fine to eat and they make our life better. Yet the chemicals that they put into the foods taste terrible. So they have to put in such a high amount of fat and sugar and salt to make these products taste even remotely amazing. And so that is just, it's just outrageous, the amount of salt, sugar, and fat that they put into these foods. So then we go to the fact that food is available to us 24/7. We don't even have to leave our car or our home to have high sugar, poor quality fat food delivered right to us. Then you add on to it any stressors that we've got going on, whether they're physical stressors, mental health stressors, other insecurities about the economy, our health, any additional things like that that we add on are only making it difficult to balance our metabolism, which then can lead to metabolic syndrome. All right, so let's talk about metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome, the first criteria is your waist circumference. And part of your metabolic balance plan is taking your metrics. It's learning these numbers about yourself. So if you have a waist circumference of greater than 35 inches as a woman and greater than 40 inches as a man, that's your first criteria. Then you have to add in an additional 2 criteria from the list. So your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, that needs to be above 50 for women. I'm sorry, less than, excuse me. HDL is less than 50 for women and less than 40 for men. Triglycerides, which is the sugar part of fat, needs to be above or equal to 150, where your glucose or your blood sugar has to be equal to or greater than 110, and your blood pressure has to be greater than or equal to 130/85. And we put these together, and they create quite a few health issues. And so we're going to look at the next slide on those health issues that arise due to metabolic syndrome. And these are the consequences of metabolic syndrome, and they're kind of known as lifestyle diseases, chronic inflammation, chronic diseases. And these are processes that we know: asthma, arthritis, heart disease, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, cancer, PCOS, infertility, gout, erectile dysfunction. How many do we have ourselves, or how many do we know of friends and family members? And we can pretty much put these into three categories. One is metabolic, and that's your type 2 diabetes, your gout, your high blood pressure. These are, we can also put it into static, which is the load of your skeletal system. And here's a little tidbit for you. For every pound you lose of weight, it's losing 4 pounds of impact off of your knees. The next thing, the last one that we can put it is to mood, and that's your psychiatric well-being, your social life. So depression, anxiety, mood issues. But I would like to take just a moment and circle back to the inflammatory illnesses, because we've all known like a swollen ankle, and it's swollen and it's inflamed, or maybe rheumatoid arthritis and the inflammation that's there. But even osteoarthritis, which many of us know kind of as that wear and tear kind of joint disease, that is more of, that's also an inflammatory issue. And that inflammation of the body can cause inflammation of the brain. And if the body becomes inflamed and the brain becomes inflamed, we have lots of other health issues. We can see memory, mood, ability to think and concentrate. All of those things can be affected. And what we eat affects if we're inflamed, because when we have too much sugar, our insulin level goes up. And we're going to go into insulin quite a bit in these next couple slides. And when the insulin goes up, it makes inflammation go up, and inflammation makes cortisol go up. And this whole process stops the breakdown of your fat cells and increases the production of your fat cells. And it's also going to change how your immune system works. So to better explain what's happening inside your body, I'm going to show you one of my favorite videos. It's going to be a 5-minute video, and it's going to show you what's going on inside the cell, and then we're going to talk about it. All right, let's start the video.
Type 2 diabetes, also known as adult onset diabetes, is a metabolic disorder characterised by high blood glucose. Obesity is thought to be the primary cause of type 2 diabetes in people who are genetically predisposed. Thus, overweight people have increased levels of glucose circulating in their blood. The pancreas is an organ which produces hormones that control blood glucose levels. The hormones that control blood glucose are produced by clusters of cells in the pancreas called islets. Here glucose is shown arriving at the islets via the bloodstream. The glucose is taken up by cells in the islet called beta cells. The beta cells respond by producing the hormone insulin, which lowers blood glucose. In type 2 diabetes, high levels of glucose stimulate the beta cells to produce lots of insulin to lower the blood glucose levels. The insulin is taken up by the blood vessels for transport to muscle, liver, and fat, where it allows those tissues to absorb glucose. Unfortunately, sustained production of insulin also leads to secretion of large amounts of another hormone-like substance by the beta cells. White blood cells, which live in the islet, respond to this hormone and consume it. We are now inside an islet white blood cell at a magnification of 250,000 times. The hormone, in combination with high glucose, causes production of free radicals inside the white cell. The free radicals activate a sentinel protein that originally evolved to protect us from microbial infection, causing it to unwind. The newly active sentinel proteins then aggregate with 6 other proteins to form a ring. 7 adaptor proteins then bind to the ring. The adaptor proteins work to capture specialised inactive proteins from the surrounding cell fluid, bringing two halves together to form the active whole, which is then released. This entire structure is called the inflammasome, and its sole purpose is to act as a platform for combining and activating these proteins. The newly active proteins then convert yet another small signalling protein, splitting it into its active form. This protein is the key protein involved in inflammation in the body. The inflammatory protein is then secreted from the white blood cells into the islet. Unfortunately, this inflammatory protein causes death of the beta cells. Over time, beta cell death causes the islets to shrink, accelerating disease progression. As the islets are now greatly reduced in size, they cannot produce enough insulin to control blood glucose levels. Over time, high blood glucose causes damage to many different tissues throughout the body. What originally evolved as a defence mechanism against infection now seems to be a driving force for inflammation in type 2 diabetes. Chronic diseases associated with inflammation are the most common diseases of ageing in the Western world and represent our greatest health threats in the 21st century.
Okay, so we just saw that a surge in blood sugar made a response of insulin in the pancreas, and how that eventually led to inflammation, which can lead to a wave of diseases that we have been talking about. Insulin is the key central hormone of nutritional metabolism, and a high level of insulin influences almost all other hormones in your body, even your thyroid. So let's take a look and understand what's happening between insulin and blood sugar levels in this graph. So we're eating right here these wonderful simple sugars, right? So good for us. Not really, no, not at all. And we're spiking our blood sugar. And then our blood sugar drops drastically, but our insulin, that green line, is just making a slow and steady decline. And if you notice, we get this big gap, so we get super hungry. And not only did our blood sugar drop to the level that we started, it actually dropped below. And so here we have this big drop from eating these simple carbohydrates, or these short chain carbohydrates, and that's like your refined sugar, your dextrose, your sweets, your chocolates, your refined breads, your cereals. And once that gap is there, then we're going to be looking for a snack. It's like, oh, I'm super hungry, I need a snack. And what are we snacking on? We're not snacking on fruits and vegetables, are we? It's crackers, cookies, cakes, candies, pretzels, chips, that kind of stuff. And what is that going to do? Those things are also short chain carbohydrates. And we're just stuck in this cycle of spiking and dropping and spiking and dropping. And we just keep raising those insulin levels. And we saw how that makes a big difference in our cells and creating inflammation. So let's see what happens when we eat complex carbohydrates or long chain carbohydrates. And these are the carbohydrates that our hunter-gatherer ancestors lived on, these fruits and vegetables. And if we look here, we see that there's a slow, steady increase to our insulin and our blood sugar, and a slow and steady decrease to our blood sugar levels and our insulin levels. And that's allowing us to have a long-lasting satiation, like we feel full longer. And so it's really important. It's that moderate rise of the insulin. And as we saw in that video, there's just some pretty big effects to pump in that glucose high and keeping that insulin going as well. So let's review what happens with those high insulin levels. We have high blood lipids, that's your cholesterol, your triglycerides, your HDL, your LDL, all of those things go up. Your stress hormones go up, cortisol, adrenaline. We have an increase in fat storage. We have a decrease in fat cell breakdown. We're going to change melatonin, because cortisol and melatonin have an inverse relationship to each other. So the higher your cortisol level is, the lower your melatonin level is. And so we have trouble sleeping. DHEA, which is a precursor for many of our hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, that's all going to change. We're also going to have a change in our human growth hormone, which is what helps us to be anti-aging. Insulin is also going to influence blood clotting. So by increasing hemostasis and decreasing fibrinolysis, so what happens then is that we are also at risk for blood clots and those kinds of things that we talked about, because metabolic syndrome, as we talked about, increases your risk for stroke. And high insulin levels can affect your immune system. So we saw in the video and in the graphs how important it is to eat good food first. And vegetables contain a concentration of mixture of nutrients that protect against inflammation and strengthen our immune system. And it's one of the big core things about a metabolic balance plan is the fruits and the vegetables in it, along with lots of proteins. And we're going to go over a plan in more detail in a few slides here. And so we want to be able to show you how eating those leafy vegetables, the cabbage, the onions, the root vegetables, they're really high in vitamin C and E and Bs, and they also help to eliminate free radicals and prevent the formation of those inflammatory promoting messenger substances like we saw in the video. And we also have substances like magnesium, zinc, selenium. All of these vegetables are extremely effective compounds for strengthening the immune system. So it's so important to eat good food first. And your metabolic balance plan is going to help you find target foods that give you all of these necessary nutrients for a healthy body. The other things that we can do to promote our health and our immune system is movement. It is so important that we are moving every day, but we don't want to overtrain either. And we have this really great little tool, our resting morning pulse rate, that we can use to see if we're overtraining or being overstressed. So every morning I look to see what my resting pulse rate has been. And if I see it creeping up, then I know there's a couple things going on. I'm either overtraining, I'm overstressed. And so then I can make changes to my life to bring that back down. So always very important, start slow and steady if you haven't exercised recently. And walking is a great place to start. Our hunter-gatherers ancestors walked about 12 miles a day. They ran, sprinted, and lifted heavy things. So we're totally designed for it. But we got to start slow and steady if we haven't been there for a while. Other things that we can do to maintain a healthy body composition is also to, if you drink alcohol, drink in moderation, get enough sleep. About 7 hours. If we start getting below that, there's some different things that happen to us. And in the book that you're going to get for participating in today's webinar, there's more information in that. Drinking half an ounce of water per pound of body weight is a great rule of thumb to know how much water to drink. And all of these are part of your metabolic balance plan. So let's go over the cornerstones of what creates your plan. So the first thing we start with is the blood parameters and your health history. And that's going to provide the basis to evaluate your health status. Then we're going to support and optimize your digestive system and your health. And we're going to support your cardiometabolic health. And many people, let's go over what that is, because most people have never heard of a cardiac metabolic health. What is that? And that's your ratio of omega-3 fatty acids. So you've got omega-6, omega-3, and arachidonic acid, leptin. These are all markers and chemicals that you have in your body and nutrients that you have in your body that we need to have a healthy heart. Even the size of your cholesterol is important. If you have a big beach ball, bouncy kind of cholesterol versus like a ping pong size cholesterol. The ping pong ball stuff is more dangerous than the big bouncy beach ball kind of stuff. And we're supporting getting those numbers into the parameters that provide really great health for us with a metabolic balance plan. The latest research, nutrition science, and modern technology are used to provide that optimal nutrition plan, and clients receive professional support on their individual health journey. And that's one of the great things. And one of the wonderful things that we're going to do as part of FCM Metabolic Balance is we're starting a group program, and Bree's going to give us more information on that later on. But we really love the idea of creating a community of like-minded people. Number 6 is the whole foods only. And this is like super, super exciting for me because there are no sugars, there are no pills, there are no prepackaged foods to purchase in this program. It is whole foods. And it is a careful composition of those foods that will rebalance your metabolism and improve overall health. And it includes digestive and cardiometabolic health and immune system health, all guiding you to eat right for your unique metabolism. And therefore, we're going to restore a healthy weight. And overall, it's a holistic approach to help you reach your health goals. Weight is one of those great benefits, but it's also super important to have those other markers and to work on reducing metabolic syndrome. So let's talk about a plan. And how do we get to this personalized nutrition plan? So you go and have a blood draw, and the results from your blood draw and your personal health information help you to find your unique foods that are right for your metabolism. And the nutritional database that is utilized has 10,000 different foods and preparations in it. It has 1,100 basic and unprocessed foods. It has 133 nutritional facts and ingredients per food item. So you should never underestimate how your body can start working right away when you give yourself the right foods. I started my program in September of 2018, and by March of 2019, I had lost 30 pounds. And your health and this personalized nutrition plan it just makes all the difference in the world. I've been in organized weight loss programs on and off since I was in the 3rd grade. I mean, I graduated high school at 230 pounds. Like, I know this journey, and metabolic balance really has been the only thing that has worked for me and sustained for me. Like I said, that was 2018. We're 2021 now. And so it's been a sustaining and life-changing supportive program. So let's talk more about what the plan actually looks like. And before you is, it's not anybody's specific plan, it's just an example of a plan. And you can see the different components to it. We're gonna break those down. And so I'm gonna flip sides, we're gonna flip back and forth here. So these are the rules or the strategies that help us to be successful with metabolic balance. And the first one is there's only 3 meals with a 5-hour break. So let's go back. And we can see that we've got a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner, and in between each one of those is 5-hour break. Because what did we learn about our hunter-gatherers? They had fasting, and we still need those fasting breaks. So we're gonna have breakfast, then we're gonna wait 5 hours, then we're gonna have lunch, and then we're gonna wait 5 hours, then we're gonna have dinner. And then we're going to make sure that those meals are lasting a maximum of 60 minutes. And there's a couple things to think about with this. So first of all, this was developed in Europe, and so many meals can last hours and hours in the European culture. In America, we're kind of encouraging people to have your meal last longer. It takes 5 minutes for your taste buds to reset in between bites. So gotta give our body a little time. And the other thing is when you think about the meal lasting 60 minutes, we have a lot of drinks available to us in our culture, and those drinks need to be part of your meal. And so if you're having, like your coffee and your tea, like 30 minutes after that 60-minute mark, it's going to kind of throw off your metabolism just a little bit. And we're going to begin each meal with protein, because that's going to minimize that insulin response in the pancreas, and it's going to improve digestion and optimize overall nutrition and prevent acidity. And there's only one protein per meal, and there's 3 proteins per day. So let's look at that. And you can see, like on that first suggestion, we've got yogurt, eggs, fish. The next suggested day is milk, meat, and legumes. We've got cheese, poultry, nuts and seeds. Mushrooms are also a source of protein. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any others. So we are also going to stop eating at 9 o'clock so we can have a long fast all the way through. And we're going to drink water. Remember how we talked about half a pound of, so for every pound, you're drinking half an ounce of water. And we're going to have an apple a day. So remember, apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? So apples are rich in dietary fiber called pectin, and that's going to decrease uric acid. And those older varieties of apples are particularly rich in polyphenols, which are so good for the body. And those older varieties, some examples are like the Ida Reds, the Brauverns, the Macintosh, the Jonathans. And so these 8 strategies that we have in front of us, these are what take us from phase 2 through the rest of our life. And they also take us when we're traveling too. I was in my strict conversion phase when I did this, and I spent a week in New York and I spent a week in Florida while in my strict conversion phase of phase 2. And I was able to completely follow these 8 strategies and not flip from my plan at all. It was really, really nice. So let's look at the foods. I mean, as you see on the plan slide where it says like fruits and vegetables with every meal, you'll get with your plan a specific list that's supportive for you. And that includes the proteins as well. So when it just said meat, there are meats that are going to be specific for you. And there's these subtle differences are super important, because let's take green peppers, for example. There's peppers, there's yellow peppers, there's green peppers, there's orange peppers, there's red peppers. Your plan may only have green peppers on it. And you're thinking, okay, what's the difference? There are specific nutrients that you need based upon what we've learned from your blood work and your case history that are in green peppers that aren't in yellow, red, or orange. And so those aren't on your plan. I have red lentils and black lentils, but I don't have brown or green or yellow. And as you move through the phases, you'll add foods in, and some of them get added specifically for you in your phase 3 list, but then we also have exploratory meals too, where we get to try different things. So I used to think that fish and broccoli and brown rice were like my go-to meal as a healthy meal. And they weren't on my list at all. Neither was zucchini. Fish was, but brown rice wasn't, and zucchini wasn't either, and broccoli wasn't. So when I got into phase 3, I added broccoli back in, and I found that did not do me so well. I did not feel as good eating it, but I added zucchini in, and I felt great. So one of the big keys of restoring health with metabolic balance really is the variety of foods on your list. And it's important that you eat the variety of foods too. So if we kind of get stuck in the same like 6 foods, we're not going to see the same results as if we're totally exploring all the foods that are on our list. Like I help patients all the time in my practice as a chiropractor try to identify nutritional deficiencies and find food, because we eat real food first. So I'll look up foods that are high in like zinc or selenium or calcium. And I was always amazed. I'm like, these foods are on my list. They're on my plan. And so those hunter-gatherer foods, right? Our ancestors were eating those nutrient-dense foods, and that's what's on your plan. And we had those fasting breaks as well. And so it's all just bringing us back to what we are innately designed to have. So who can benefit from metabolic balance? And these are just a few of the people who are being helped with metabolic balance. And one thing that I would like to mention about these groups is that age group where it says middle and late adulthood. I cannot tell you how many men and women, once they hit 40, tell me, can't lose weight once you hit 40. Like it's some magical birthday or something like that. Or like once I hit menopause, can't be happening, makes it harder. I totally beg to differ that it's not an age thing at all. I was 44 when I started the plan, right? And I lost 30 pounds. So I was definitely in those mid 40 ranges. I also had a head injury, which was one of the main reasons that I went to this, and that brain inflammation, it's really interesting when you look at the brain scans of when people are overweight or they're obese. There's parts of your brain which really help you to make good choices and to really have it together just aren't there. And so we're also living in an an obesogenic environment that's making it hard for us to know what to eat and when to eat and how to eat. And we're definitely not taught to understand how our body works. And yet you're changing all of that today for yourself because you're here and you're listening to this webinar and you're learning so much about your body and how it works and how things can change for you. And so when we look at these processes, whether it's metabolic syndrome, or we feel like we're aging too fast, or we're having hormone imbalances, or maybe we're dealing with infertility, or we're not getting enough sleep, or we feel like our immune system is weak, or we're super stressed out. All of these things are addressed and can be changed with metabolic balance. And so I would like to show you some of the success stories. These are from Dr. Wolf's practice. And this woman was 35 years old when she started the program with Dr. Wolf. And these pictures were taken one summer apart. And she has talked about the amount of energy that she has now. She went from 312 pounds down to 143. And the next one, we're going to show you the actual blood values, because weight loss is one thing and that's great. But I really want to be healthy long term. Like, I hope to be in practice till I'm 97. And in order to do that, I need to be healthy. I also want to be able to enjoy, like, I don't know, taking a cup down from the top shelf in the cupboard. Keeping my body functioning for me is just as important as how it looks. And this is Linda, and she was in her late 60s when she started the program, and she had had a bad accident that left her in a wheelchair for longer distances, like going from the parking lot to the store. And after 6 weeks of metabolic balance, she was able to start using a walker to walk with. And then we can also see over here, look at her blood chemistry changes, right? Metabolic syndrome, we don't have her waist measurements on here. It would be great if we did. But we can see that her cholesterol was too high. We can see that her HDL was borderline being too low. Her LDL was too high. Her triglycerides were too high. Her glucose was borderline being too high. Her BMI was too high. And that ratio, this ratio, that tells you if you're in really hot water with your cholesterol. And that cardiometabolic health that we talked about, that is where this number comes into play. So when we see, so that was June, she's now in February, look at how these numbers have all dropped down. It was a 28% weight loss. She was down 49.5 pounds, and she talked about how metabolic balance gave her life back. So let's talk about the research, right? So it's one thing to see these numbers, right? Every program has got the before and after pictures, right? But do they have the research to back them up? And Metabolic Balance does. This study is called an prospective observational study, which follows after 1, 3, 6, and 12 months with data from questionnaires and blood samples. Okay, what the heck does that mean, right? So what that means is that they followed these people for up to a year. And it's a really good study, and here's how we know that it's a really good study, because they had 60.6% of the initial people still following up with them a year later. And the criteria for success was that they were able to reduce their weight, they were able to maintain a weight reduction of 5% after 1 year. Right. Now, this wasn't done by Metabolic Balance Corporate or anything like that. This was done in the Freiburg University Medical Center, who did the study. And they found that 62.5% of the participants in the study reduced their weight by more than 5% and made it for 1 year and kept it off for a year. Now, 33.1%, so about 33%, so they had lost more than 10% and been able to maintain it for a year. So the other really cool thing that they noticed about this program compared to others, and in the next slide, I'll show you where some of the other programs that they were looking at in this study were at, is that they were able to, they were still following the guidelines 12 months later. And they said that the participants were saying one of the main reasons why was because it was their plan. And they had personalized the food items and identified for their participants what was going to work specifically for them. The other thing that they really talked about for the success of this program in this research study was the coaching and the accountability. And because not only did they lose the weight, but they had quality of life was higher afterwards. And we'll show you that in just another slide here too. So on this little green guy right here, these are where some of the other programs that they were looking at fell. And here's where Metabolic Balance was. So the most that they weren't even making that 50% mark and we're making 62.5% with metabolic balance. And so it's really amazing, right? So that they were able to have the weight loss. Great. But let's look at quality of life, right? We want to be living longer. And so before they got started, about 38.2% said, yeah, I'm satisfied with my personal health related quality of life. But afterwards, 67.8%. And then if we look at 27% of the participants were saying that their life was limited, severely limited by their quality of life being so poor. And at the end, it was only at 11%. So not only are we looking at, weight loss as a possible, as a great side effect, the quality of life is super high with this program too. And I'm going to hand it over to Miss Bree, and she is going to explain more about how to sign up for the program and the two options that we have for that as well. And I just wanted to thank you for letting me share Metabolic Balance with you. It has changed my life. I love the program so much. I'm just so super excited to share this with you. So Bree, take it away.
All right. I just want to introduce myself in case you missed the 7 o'clock kickoff. I am Dr. Maggie's assistant metabolic balance coach, and we've been working together to create this program using metabolic balance nutrition plan that we are very excited about, and and I'd love to share a little bit more with you about it. So go ahead and change the slide, Dr. Maggie. Thanks. So our program, okay, it includes blood work that is, it's your blood work, it's your information that we then are able to put together with your health history that you fill out, and then create that personalized nutrition plan through Metabolic Balance. What we offer as FCM Metabolic Balance is that coaching and education support. So it's something that is broken down into what we call different series, and it walks you through the 4 phases of your metabolic balance plan. So we have 2 options for you. So whether you're a group person or you're more of a private person, we have both options for you. So our private program just means that all of your coaching experiences are one-on-one. And that's at a regular cost of $1,100. Right now, we do have a group program that we are kicking off, and the deadline, I want to say real quick, is coming up soon. It's January 17th. It's on Sunday. But what's great about the group program is that we're able to get this community of like-minded people that are excited about making a lifestyle change and get to share, because so much of making that lifestyle change, you have your ups and downs, you need that support, and especially that support from the people who are going through a similar program with you. With the program, we also have that group coaching as well, along with some individual coaching where you speak one-on-one with myself, and be able to kind of work through, where you're at with your plan. And really we focus on some of those inner signals that we just have to learn about ourselves again. And sharing is a really great way to sometimes be like, oh yeah, I guess this happens when this happens, so it's just a great community where you get to share that experience together. So like I said, our group program deadline is January 17th. We have right now 9 spots available, and it's just a limited time of savings of $175. So the total package for that group program is $925. So we are very excited about this. We are hoping that all this information is kind of getting you those sparks going where you're like, yes, I'd love to make this lifestyle change. I'm tired of that yo-yo effect, and just kind of be here to support you through that time. So let's see here. Anything? Let's see here. I want to real quick actually I don't see any questions at this time, Dr. Maggie. Is there anything else that you want to follow up with?
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to share is that it's an inclusive program. So there's lots of programs out there where you sign up for the program, but then you have to buy their prepackaged meals, and then you have to buy their shakes, and you have to buy, so you have the coaching, but now you have to go to their store and you have to buy all of these extra things on top of the cost of the coaching. That is not how metabolic balance works at all. It's all inclusive. The coaching is in there. You're already spending money on food. It's in your budget already. We're just going to tweak the foods that you're purchasing. You're going to explore the grocery store in a whole new way. The other really great thing too is that, like some of the other programs that are out there, you're getting the coaching and the behavior support and stuff like that. But then if you want an exercise program, that's extra. If you need coaching on exercise, that's, if you need coaching on a plan, if you want a plan, a nutrition plan, that's all extra. That is not, that's all part of it. We're going to talk about when we add exercise and how we add exercise. We're going to talk about foods that are, and your foods and inner signals, and learning those things again for you. So it really is an all-inclusive kind of program. And so I'm going to encourage you guys, like, I know that we are in the Midwest and people don't like to be the first one to ask questions. So put them in the chat. Like, you don't have to raise your hand or anything like that. You don't have to speak in front of the group, nothing like that. So we can, yeah, be sure and put those in. So if you're ready to sign up, you can send a message through the Healthy Chat. You can send us a message through the Facebook. You can email the office, all those kinds of things. And you're going to be receiving a free ebook. It's called The 5 Things That You Can Do to Manage Your Weight, and It's Not What You Think. And it talks in more detail about some of the stuff that we talked about tonight when it comes to what happens when you drink the water, eating vegetables, getting enough sleep, those kinds of things. And so I'm really going to encourage you all to, if you have any questions at all, be sure and pop those in the chat or raise your hand or anything like that.
And I real quick want to mention that you will be getting some emails following our webinar that all have a link that has a newsletter. There's a link in there for both either the group program or the private program. So if it is past January 17th and you are trying to do the group program, it's not going to work automatically. So you'll just have to reach out to us and kind of we'll look at the time, because there's a time issue of getting everything together and everything. So I just want to mention that real quick so you're aware of that as well. We have a couple of questions. So let me pull them up here. So Krista asked, how do people handle meals with families on this program? That's a great question. So I have 3 very picky eaters and 1 very hungry husband. So Dr. Maggie, did you want to answer that?
Oh, well, you share your experience first,
Okay,
because I have
sure.
a 15-year-old son that eats what I cook. So
Right.
I'm in a completely different situation when that comes from. But I'll share about what happens like at holidays and traveling, because I traveled with lots of people. And so I'll share with that. But you share when it comes specifically with how you cooked for your, like, did those first, 2 or 3 phases.
Yes. Okay. So so I have a husband and 2 boys at home. I have a 6-year-old and a almost 2-year-old. And when I started my plan, it was last March, and my not quite 1-year-old wasn't eating normal food, so he kind of had his own meal. But at one point when I started it, I was looking, I'm like, I have to make 3 meals for 1 meal. And I'm like, that doesn't work. So I talked with my husband, and he's great. For me to be able to learn something new, I did stick with, I asked him to just cook for himself and the boys, and that's so I could focus on my meal. But then as I got more comfortable with the meal, and I got comfortable with the food, because honestly, there's some food on there that I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Like legumes is a hurdle for a lot of people. And when I got into it and got more comfortable with trying foods, and then I would, test it out on my kids, and then all of a sudden we could easily integrate it into a family meal. when it comes to when you're trying to measure, make sure that you are weighing out the amount of food that you should have within your meal. What I have done in the past is where, if it's for all of us, it's easy to be able to like piece things together. Like taco night is a breeze because one of my meals is poultry and then vegetables and then fruit. That's one of my meals. So all I have to do is get some chicken breast, and you can use seasoning with it. And I made some taco meat with some homemade seasoning, and then we pieced together all those different pieces to either build a burrito or salad or whatever. And then I was able to measure and then put everything else on the table so they could eat. So it really comes down to, for me, I should say, it came down to me getting comfortable with that food, and kind of depending upon how you are managing, like, being in the kitchen and different things like that. If you like to experiment, or if you like to kind of stick with your safety zone, that's where I think it's a little bit different for everybody. We have some clients who are not comfortable trying new things, and they're like, oh, I don't like it. And it's like, well, so what are the different things, that you didn't like about it? And then trying to give that to, also serving that as a meal for your family. And then also you're like, I don't like it. Well, your family's not gonna like it either. So just having kind of a good attitude and really being open-minded about trying new things, and also kind of projecting that out to your family as well, and especially your kids. So that's my little bit.
Yeah, but let's mention that like your food preferences are taken into this too. So if there's a food that you really don't like I don't like water chestnuts. There's something about the crunch and the texture. Well, so they're not on my list. I cannot do gluten, and if I do dairy, I look like my skin is a chicken with its feathers plucked out. So gluten and dairy aren't on my plan as well. And so, like I said, I have a 15-year-old, and he was 13 when I started the program, and he's always pretty much just eaten whatever I've cooked. And I am a huge foodie. Oh my gosh, do I love my food. And I love to cook, and I love to try new things. So I am a huge recipe resource. I've actually been creating a little notebook through my whole journey and finding websites that have really great recipes that are easily balanced recipes. And then also Metabolic Balance Corporate also has recipes on their Facebook page that we utilize on our Facebook page. And so there's lots and lots of resources. And there's also formulas that you can use, because I'm a batch cooker. So there was, for a time in my life, I would cook on Sunday and we'd eat that for the whole week. And you can kind of do that with this plan. I do a lot of freezing. So like I would make a whole turkey breast and I would portion out. So I have shoe boxes in my freezer. It looks kind of funny, I'm sure, but in there are baggies with pre-measured foods in there. And so I have poultry as a breakfast food, and I get 90 grams of protein, I get, it's 90 grams of vegetables, 70 grams of poultry. So I have 70 grams of poultry in my freezer in all these little bags that's marked breakfast poultry. And then I just pull those out on a breakfast, and I have spinach soup that's on there. And so I'll have like a turkey spinach soup, or I'll have a turkey salad. I think that's what I had this morning. There's just all kinds of like really yummy, fun stuff. And it's just like trying new things and exploring new things. And we're totally here to help you. And that's one of the great things about being part of the group too, is everybody's going to bring their experience and help you maybe spark something that you hadn't thought about for yourself or your family. And then traveling with it, once you kind of get an understanding of about what a portion looks like, and that'll be one of the things that we encourage you to do, is kind of figure out, I am pretty close at taking out a chunk of goat cheese at 70 grams from the block. So you'll get there. Sylvia, who's one of our trainers, she's got a friend who's like always within like 1 gram of everything. It's just kind of like her magic ability. What were some other questions we had, Bree?
So we have, how long is the program, months, weeks? And real quick to answer that question, it really depends upon your goals. We do, like within the series, we have 3 series that support your 4 phases. Okay, so your first series, your alpha series, is going to include your phase 1, phase 2, phase 2 is where you are working really hard on losing that weight. Phase 3 is when you are experimenting with different foods. That is those two, and then I'm sorry, the gamma series also has phase 4, which is then maintenance and kind of lifestyle stuff. Each one has about 6 weeks of content and support, though saying that within phase 2, like I said, that's where a lot of that work happens with losing weight and rebalancing and everything. It took me to lose 40 pounds. It took me, gosh, what was it, March, April, May, June. So about 5 months. And Dr. Maggie, I think yours was 6 months, right?
Yeah, 6 months. Mine was September to March, so.
And then, so then we have that support for you. And then once you hit your goal, then you go into those next series. So it is, you know, this is a big lifestyle change. So it's not going to happen overnight, but you're going to see some pretty amazing changes at the same time, especially at the beginning as you are starting. So next question says, what about if you don't like certain foods? Not a big meat eater. I also try to avoid soy. Can I get enough protein in other ways? And the answer is absolutely. So there is a rule when we are creating a plan, is that we can't have too many exceptions. So that's just something that in our initial consultation, after we get your blood work done and we can go over those results, we can talk about that. And we can basically have that discussion about what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, and kind of balancing that out. So anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, there was no soy on my plan because I don't really do soy either. And being a strict vegetarian on the plan would, if you're a strict vegetarian, so if you're strict vegan, you'd have to have soy in your plan because there just aren't enough protein sources as a strict vegan to get the variety of essential amino acids that you need. If you could be like, if you're like an ovo-lacto vegetarian, you have more opportunity. We'd have to see if there's enough choices for there. If you'll, you know, a lot of times people are like, well, I eat fish, eggs, and cheese, but I don't do like red meat. Or maybe they'll eat chicken, but they just don't do red meat. There are actually some plans that don't have red meat on them at all because their blood work, it isn't supportive of their body. And so their uric acid may be too high or some other inflammatory marker may be too high. So red meat wouldn't be on their plan at all. So it all depends on, but strict veganism, if you are a strict vegan, soy would have to be on there because there just aren't enough protein sources that way. But otherwise, so much flexibility, so much variety.
Yep. And then I'm just going to follow up. So the next one was, I can't stomach fish. What are the chances it would be on my plan? Is it a common safe food? So kind of following up with what we just talked about, you know, if it's something that you want to exempt from your food plan, we can do that. It's just kind of having that conversation at our initial consultation to really figure that out. Is coaching done in person or online? And actually, so yeah, I haven't talked about this yet. So all of our coaching and everything takes place on Healthy. So that's where you're getting the emails and everything from us through Healthy. It's a HIPAA compliant online platform where we have we're able to check in and do logs, and there's some accountability using the chat. We have a group chat as well for our group program. And so then our coaching calls would be on Zoom. Okay, so
just like we're doing tonight.
Exactly. Yep. And then another question, I have celiac disease. So does one of my kids. Does it allow for gluten-free? And absolutely, I am gluten-free and dairy-free, and there's a few other things that I'm free of. And I got the plan that I needed in order to get to my healthy state. So yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And
it's whole foods. You know, we're eating meat, vegetables, and fruit, or we're eating fish, vegetables, or fruit, or we're eating, and the bread is completely optional in the plan. And your metabolism. I just want to give one example of how metabolism has changed. And I know we're at 8 o'clock, so if anybody else needs to jump off, we wanted to say thank you guys for being there. But When I first did this, I couldn't do fruit right away in the morning. Like I had fruit for breakfast on my plan, and I couldn't do it because I was hungry all day long. Cut the fruit on in the morning, did a lot better because it was spiking my blood sugar too much. Now I eat fruit for breakfast all the time, and it's doing just fine for me because my body is healing and my metabolism is changing. So the plans evolve with you. So maybe your plan is like this, and you can't tolerate something, like I couldn't tolerate that fruit, and or maybe someone really shouldn't be doing the beef because of the amount of acidity they have in their body. That's all going to change as we get through that, into that third and fourth phase. Your body changes and adapts, and you're able to add those foods back in. And I want to just kind of touch on something about the concept of like a safe food. It isn't so much that it's safe as much as it's supportive, and that these foods are just like, we know that the nutrients in these foods are going to get you where you need to be. And it's just so, I don't know, I just love the plan so much. I love the program so much. It's changed my life so much, and I'm just super excited to be the first coach in the state of North Dakota to bring this to us here and provide support and help for your health. So anything else?
That is
Are
it.
there any other questions, Bree?
Nope, our questions are done in the chat.
So, well, if there aren't any other questions, be sure send us emails later on if you have other questions or concerns. Things are popping up. If you're reading more information from the Facebook page or from the emails that we're sending out and the email series that you're getting with more opportunities to learn more about health and about the program, be sure and just send us a question. We're happy to answer them any way we can. So thanks so much. Appreciate everyone. You have a great night.
Krista, if you're still on, I can answer your question quick. She's asking financially. So the group program, we are offering, yes, a few times this throughout this year. So if it's something that that you want to kind of keep track of, and and follow us a little bit, and we'll have more opportunities to learn more in the future. You can always sign up whenever privately, but then our groups, it's every so many months. So the next one is March is when we're starting to kick that off. So so we'll let you know on Facebook page if that's something that you want to do, and kind of give you a heads up with that. So if you want to do this, if you want to sign up, you can just send a chat in healthy, and if you want to go back into that, that's so I have the right information for you. All right, and Amy, thanks for listening though, and hopefully it's something that I think Dr. Maggie, she heard about metabolic balance a few years before she decided to do it. So if it's something that comes up, in your world later, we're here.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, Krista. Yeah, you'll get the emails later, starting tomorrow for sure. You'll get the ebook, and you'll get those follow-up emails as well. So you'll still get information from us. Yep. Good night. Thanks everybody.
Everyone. Bye-bye. All right. So we'll sign off, Bree, and then we'll chat offline.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.